Hey everyone, this is Tenitria Williams, and I am here again to talk about mental health. Why? Because it's important. You guys know what I want you to do. If you are watching this video, I want you to hashtag live. Let me know where you're watching from. And if you are watching the replay, I want you to hashtag replay. And again, let me know where you're watching from. I'm actually going to share the video myself to a couple groups. Come on in, share this video, tag your friends. We're talking about things to avoid, or three particular things to avoid when we are dealing with conflict resolution. So again, give me just 1 second to share this video to a couple groups. Here we go. I see we got people joining. Let me know where you're watching from. All right. We'll go ahead and get started. I want to give people just a few more minutes. Again, my name is Tenitria Williams, and I'm so excited to be here with you guys today. I believe continuing to put out information about how we can have better mental health is a part of my calling. And so that's what I'm going to do. The other thing, and so sometimes when we think mental health, we don't always think of the practicality of it all. And so our relationships impact our mental health tremendously. And some of the things that we need to learn is how to effectively deal with conflict resolution. Go ahead and let me know if you feel confident in your ability to deal with conflict. Say, I feel confident, or that's something I need to learn. Put that in the comment section if you know that's some stuff you need to learn. So today we're not going to be here long, but I want to share three things that will help you to better navigate conflict effectively, three things to avoid doing during conflict. So the first thing I want you to think about is conflict is not bad. Oftentimes when we hear conflict, we think it's bad. Conflict is really just two differences. And if you can start to think, you know what, I'm not against this person. We are trying to come up with a solution for both of us, or a solution that works best for both of us, then you're going to have a better opportunity when you go into conflict. But again, really quickly, I want to talk about three things to avoid when you are dealing with conflict. The first thing is to avoid what we call the kitchen sink effect. The kitchen sink effect is when you start conflict and you just start throwing every possible problem you've had into that argument. So the kitchen sink is you're just putting it all in there. So for example, you may start the conversation talking about the division of labor in the house, but then at some point something triggers something and someone brings up the fact that we never go to vacation with my side of the family. We only go to vacation with your side of the family. And then when someone else brings up, you never get my side of the family nicer gifts. And then someone else brings up the fact that you forgot Mother's Day or Father's Day or whatever. And so there are too many issues to deal with because you're dumping all of the issues in at the same time. So how do you deal with that? You want to first avoid doing that. But how do you avoid that? Because it is pretty natural to be triggered by something and bring that up. And you want to say, that is an important issue. However, let's finish this particular thing that we're talking about, and then we can talk about that. It's going to take maturity to do that, because it is really tempting to jump over and start defending yourself or get into a different argument. But again, it's really, really important that we can acknowledge, hey, I don't want to dismiss and go, just say we're not talking about that right now. You do want to acknowledge, hey, that's important and we can talk about it. But right now we have to finish this particular issue and then we can talk about that. So because we shouldn't be talking about who we're going to vacation with when we start talking about the division of labor in our house. We shouldn't start talking about, why we haven't gone on date nights when we're talking about the division of labor in the house. We have to keep it one at a time. And if you start to throw in so many things at the same time, it gets lost and nothing ever gets resolved. Nothing is resolved when you just throw it all in there at one time. It just becomes a mess. And oftentimes that's what happens in conflict, particularly with couples. But I would say even in other relationships, you just start throwing every argument, every complaint in the same argument, and again, nothing is actually resolved. So you want to make sure that you are not just dumping everything in. You don't want to have a gumbo type of argument, right, where you just dump everything into that argument. You want to keep things specific. Hey, we're talking about this. Then after we come up with a resolution for this, then we can talk about this other issue. That's very, very important that we don't do that. Oftentimes that comes up as a result of someone deflecting. So an example, deflection is if I bring an issue to you, then you now deflect it to something that I did. So example would be if I say, hey, I thought you were going to wash the dishes, and you say, yeah, but you didn't do so and so yesterday. Maybe that's true, but right now we're talking about the dishes. And so keeping those situations one at a time is going to help you to decrease a lot of the frustration that you get when you are trying to have a conversation. You want to make sure you're being respectful and saying, hey, that is important, but we're going to talk about that after we resolve this particular issue. So number one, you want to avoid, again, the kitchen sink effect. Number two, you know what you want to avoid, and this is super, super important. You want to avoid what we call hitting below the belt, which is attacking those areas that are sensitive to your partner. This is attacking those areas that you know someone is prone to be more vulnerable with, right? So attacking those personal sensitivities, it creates an environment of distrust. If you start attacking me in those sensitive areas because you're angry with me, I am not going to trust you. If you start attacking me in those areas that you know are dear to my heart and they hurt me, I am going to put a wall up, and that's not what you want in healthy relationships. You don't want walls in those healthy relationships. You have to have boundaries, but not walls. And so again, you want to make sure that you never use those sensitive areas against your partner in a argument. So example, you don't want to say something that let's say their father wasn't involved in their life. You don't want to say something in the heat of the moment because you're angry. That's why your dad wasn't involved in your life. That's meant to hurt. And when you do that, that is a huge red flag in a relationship. If you are in going in conflict and you are saying things meant to hurt the other person, that is a huge red flag. Or if the other person is saying things that they're actively trying to hurt you, this is a sign that you need to go to counseling, or maybe even just say this relationship isn't healthy and we need to walk away from it. Because the goal of conflict, or the goal of these situations or these conversations, is not to injure the other person. If that is your goal, I definitely say you need to seek some therapy. You need to seek some healing, because that should never be the goal of having conflict when specifically with your spouse or your partner. Okay, so number one, we said avoid the kitchen sink effect, which is a lot of different disagreements at once. Number two is avoid hitting below the belt. You never want to do that. Even if you are very angry, take a moment, take a break, take a pause to say, hey, I'm really angry. I need to get my thoughts together. But you don't want to attack those sensitive areas. So again, you want to make sure that you are being really mindful not to hit below the belt, because that is a surefire way to escalate the argument. It's a surefire way to ruin a good relationship. And the next thing I would say, you want to avoid accusations. What do we mean? Oftentimes, rather than simply asking simple questions, we accuse people. And most of the time, if we are accused of something, people will naturally get defensive. So if you start accusing, you can expect defensiveness. We don't want defensiveness into this conversation. So if we don't want defensiveness, we need to avoid accusations. The other problem with accusations is, again, it's going to create a more hostile environment. So again, you can simply ask questions, or just share what your feelings or thoughts are without making an accusation. So, hey, I noticed that the garage door was open, and I'm just curious, did you do that on purpose, or was there a reason for you to leave the garage door open, or did you just forget? That's a question, as opposed to, I hate the garage door being open and you did that to make me angry. That's an accusation. The difference is, one person feels like it's okay for them to share their truth. The other one feels like they have to defend why they did or did not do something. And so you're automatically going to create, again, that hostile environment. So you want to make sure that you avoid accusations. None of us want to feel like we're being accused of things. because again, we're talking healthy relationships here. And in a healthy relationship, you want it to have you want it to feel like a place of safety. And so have you ever felt very safe when you're being accused of things? Even if you didn't do what you were being accused of, there was still a sense of, I have to protect myself. So you want to make sure that you are not just going in accusing. Again, you want to make sure that you are avoiding the accusations, to ask open-ended questions, ask questions without accusatory tone, because sometimes we can ask the question, but we still have the tone in which it sounds accusatory. So why you leave that garage door open? I asked the question the way I just taught, but the way I said it was still an accusation, or it sounded like an accusation. So again, you want to make sure that you're avoiding accusations, and you want to avoid the tone of an accusation when you're asking those questions to your partner. Ask the questions without accusations, because the goal of effective communication and effective conflict resolution is for us to get on the same page. And if I come in and I start accusing you, you are not going to want to be on the same page with me. Always remember that, specifically in marriage, the goal is for us to create a win-win situation. The goal is for us to walk away both feeling like we were heard, we were understood, and we are pleased with our resolution. So I always tell couples this: if you think of it as us versus the issue as opposed to us versus each other, you're going to have a different mindset. And so when you're dealing with conflict resolution, you want to make sure that you start to think about, this is us versus the issue. We are a team, and our job as a team is to resolve the issue, as opposed to my job is to tear down the other person, or my job is to win against the other person, because that creates this tension, that creates this dynamic of for and against, and a winner and a loser. And we don't want somebody to lose in an environment or in a relationship that we want to win. In a winning relationship, both people are winning, or everybody's winning. So again, I hope this helped you. Really quick review: the 3 things to avoid, or 3 things, not just the 3 things, there are more than this, but 3 things that we talked about today to avoid during conflict was: 1, you want to avoid the kitchen sink effect, which is dumping all types of arguments into that conversation. You want to deal with one issue at a time, resolve those issues, and then move forward. Because if you dump everything in at the same time, you're never going to get any of those issues resolved. Number 2, you want to avoid hitting below the belt. In conflict resolution, even though it is resolving an issue, you still want it to feel safe. And if you start hitting below the belt, if you start attacking those personally sensitive areas, you are not going to create a healthy, safe environment. So you want to make sure that you don't hit below the belt. Hitting below the belt could also be insulting, doing things again that you know will tear your partner down. That is a huge red flag. And if you're seeing that, you definitely need to get help. The last thing we talked about was avoid accusations. Avoiding accusations is really important, because we want to create an environment where we are working together on the same page, coming up with a solution, as opposed to working against each other. I hope this helped you guys. I appreciate you watching. If this helped you, tag, share this video. I want to make sure that I have the announcement on Thursday. I want you guys to join me for Minding My Mental Health. Minding My Mental Health is Thursday at 12 p.m. This week's topic, we are talking about infertility and struggles with families conceiving or carrying their children to full term, and how that impacts mental health. That is an issue that affects a lot of people, and it's something we don't talk about a lot. A lot of times it's very hush hush, and we want to just give some practical insight of how you can work through those things and maintain and take care of your mental health through that journey. And I will be interviewing my good friend Jessica Sledge, sharing her journey to motherhood and the ups and downs and how all of that worked out. So again, I appreciate you guys. Make sure that that you're tagging, you're sharing. Thank you guys for tagging and sharing. I appreciate you. I love you. I will see you back tomorrow, and make sure you join Thursday at noon for Minding My Mental Health. You guys have a great Tuesday afternoon, and I'll see you later. Bye-bye.